Good morning. My name is Brian Reeves. I'm going to talk to you this morning about a new product, a new concept called RateAdvisor. To tell you a little bit, firstly, about myself, I've been in and around the hotel industry for a little over 20 years. I started with I founded a company called Avio a little over 20 years ago that did booking engine, distribution, digital marketing, and I stepped away from the business a few years back to look at the broader ecosystem of what's happening in travel. Our focus with Avio was very much around brand.com. How do we optimize the customer journey, optimize conversion rates, turn some of that intelligence into our digital marketing mix. And with the new business, with the Valueverse, what I'm really doing is taking a much broader focus to look at how we can help hotel profitability across the whole spectrum of distribution. So I'm going to start at a really high level. It's all very conceptual. I want to introduce our mission to you before I tell you what RateAdvisor does. There's a lot of expertise in the room. There's a lot of people that have been in this industry for quite a while. And if I can ask you just throughout the presentation to try and imagine everything from the perspective of the consumer who's going online, search, discovery, inspiration, looking at hotels and trying to figure out how to make that decision about where to book. So when we look at the ecosystem today, when I talk about ecosystem, I'm talking about the places that a customer would go to do their search. So whether they go to OTAs or whether they go to Google. You've got the OTAs that are search and booking. You've got some of the review sites that are also using meta search. You've got players that are specifically in the distressed inventory help play, so people like Travelzoo and Secret Escapes. And when I look at this ecosystem, the things that strike me from a hotel perspective, first of all, is that over the last 20 years, as long as I've been looking at it, the commission payments and the advertising payments that hotels have to make to just stay visible in this space are extraordinary. And from a consumer perspective, at the other side of this intermediary relationship, from a consumer perspective, there is no way today to go online and find the best value hotel. You simply can't do it. So customers, when they're asked about buying in any industry, in any vertical, one of the top considerations is always value for money. And in retail, it's really easy to figure out what value for money looks like because there's regulation in place and there's a lot of language and value signals that can be used. We don't have that with hotels. So what we end up with as a consumer is you're going to most likely book the hotel that has paid the highest in advertising spend to be there at the front of Google or TripAdvisor or Kayak or Trivago, or they're paying the highest commissions with Booking.com to be at the top. So for us, what you have is you have the intermediaries in this ecosystem are the winners. Hotel bills and commissions and advertising is just going up year on year, and the consumer is no closer to finding that best value. And that's indicative when you look at the browsing and the booking behavior. When we look at a consumer going online, they're jumping from site to site to site. Maybe start with the OTAs, they go to brand.com, back to TripAdvisor, looking at some of the reviews, the meta search sites, and there is no clean place to do it. So when you go and you think about search in other areas, I can go to Google and I can search for anything, and I won't ever think I need to double check Google's search results. They've established relevance and trust in a way that we just haven't with travel. So what the Valueverse mission is to use technology, and we really haven't used a lot of technology in this space over the last 20 years. Meta search is really the only thing that's come along that's doing anything different. We want to use technology to disintermediate this entire space. So that's our mission. It's really ambitious, but there's huge wins for hotels, and there's real big benefits for consumers. So to talk about some of those, how we disintermediate some areas, we have a number of different products. We're going to introduce RateAdvisor to you today. RateAdvisor is going to do a lot to help brand.com, both in terms of bottom of funnel conversion rate and growing top of funnel in terms of advertising. Room Angel is going to be an OTA that's about booking direct, but there's huge consumer benefit in it. So I'll introduce that to you as we go through. Resin Ninja is about how we're using demand. We're using all of the levers of demand rather than just price. Celebrate is looking at unsold rooms. So how can we move unsold rooms on a predictive basis in a way that doesn't damage our brand, doesn't impact ADR, in a way that's demand generative and rewards direct bookers. And Calculate is a way that we can bring the industry around this from a data share perspective. So RateAdvisor that we're going to look at today is a plug-in for your booking engine on brand.com that's going to make it crystal clear to the consumer in the same way as they have in retail, crystal clear, is there value on offer or not, and boost conversion rate at that end. Room Angel is a thin layer OTA. It's not acting as an agent at all, it's an enabler. It's a way to go and search any market, and instead of getting your results ordered by commissions that are being paid to the OTAs, you get your results based on value for money, something that we've never had. But when you click to book, the booking goes straight to the hotel, not through an agent. There is no one taking the customer relationship from you. Celebrate is a way to use unsold rooms to reward those customers in a way that's profitable for the hotel. Calculate is a way to bring the industry around this and share that data so we can build more on the platform. And ResNinja is a way to say, how can I look at my digital marketing, my commission levels, and my revenue management from a demand optimization perspective. So it's not just one-dimensional. We can do everything in a much more intelligent way. So I'll introduce RateAdvisor to you specifically. I just wanted you to have that backdrop conceptually as to where we're going with the business. So RateAdvisor is coming at the value for money question to try and make value for money demonstrable, and recognizing that the problem with displaying value for money is the pricing model that we use in hotels. So we price everything in a dynamic pricing model, and that's exactly what we should. It's the most profitable way to do it. The revenue management systems that we're using are getting more and more advanced. Better machine learning, better AI technologies. That's what we should be doing. But when we use dynamic pricing, we're not mindful enough of the problems that causes from a marketing perspective, because it puts us in a situation where when price can't be regulated, it's impossible to talk about value for money and it's impossible to advertise it. So I'll give you one example of the problem that dynamic pricing causes, and that's the low conversion rate on hotel websites. So if I, as a consumer, go to a hotel website, I see a hotel room that looks nice and a hotel that looks great in a location that I like, and I see the rate. The first problem from a consumer psychology perspective is I had no intuitive price expectation as to what that rate was likely to be. Booking hotels is not something we have an intuition about. Prices move all the time. Even if I'm a frequent booker, I generally don't have an idea what that's going to cost. So you go into that process. In contrast to a lot of what we buy in retail, I go into the booking process low on confidence because I don't have a sense of what it should be. From a hotel perspective, there's no way to indicate whether or not that rate is a fair price. So I can't use the retail flags like list price, recommended retail price, manufacturer's recommended price. None of that terminology is available to us because the regulation that's in place for retail is not in place by virtue of everything being dynamic priced. The third problem is that if that room is on a discount, I don't have any way to flag that. So your revenue manager can come in this morning, reduce the rate by 20% and say what? You can't indicate it in any way. So that could be the best value hotel in the market, but there's no way to flag it. And then because you can't demonstrate it, you also can't plug it into your advertising in the way that retailers do. So if I give you an example of the contrast between somebody that's working in a marketing role in retail versus hotels. If I'm working in marketing for Marks and Spencer's and we reduce a product by 20%, the first thing I will do is march onto the shop floor and put a 20% off sticker on that. It was £100 and now it's 80. So anyone that's in store, the incremental sales are immediately impacted because you can see that it's a discount. The second thing I'll do is go straight to the shop window and I'll put a poster on to say we've got 20% off on store or in store on certain lines at the moment. And then I'll update all of my online advertising, my social media to push out the fact that we have a sale on. A revenue manager comes in, drops the rate by 20% because of a group cancellation, and you have no price marketing opportunity. So it's a really big problem, and it goes a long way towards explaining from a consumer psychology perspective why conversion rates are low and why customers jump around from site to site to site. What we're looking for from a consumer psychology perspective, what we're looking for is riskless choice. So I've spoken a lot down through the last decade, especially on the consumer psychology of booking. A lot of people think that I'm a psychologist. I'm not. I've studied it. I know enough to take work that has won a Nobel Prize and apply it to hotels. So Daniel Kahneman in the 70s came up with prospect theory. He won a Nobel Prize for his work around what prompts a consumer to make a decision to buy. And the first thing is riskless choice. You don't want to feel that you're taking a choice with the price that you're paying. So we have no way to combat that here because we have no signal around it. You also want reference dependence. What do I reference this from? So again, retail, they have the value signals and the infrastructure to be able to do that because they're regulated in the consumer's protection. We don't have that with hotels, so it's a big impact. The second problem that this throws up is that when you look at OTAs, they thrive in an environment where value for money cannot be known. Because if I'm not going to make my decision based on value for money and the confidence that that would give me, I'm going to be very easily persuaded by urgency and scarcity and all of the risk mitigation tactics that people like Booking.com or sites like Booking.com use. So Booking.com have been called, if you do a search in Google for the most persuasive website in the world, not in travel, you'll find Booking.com appears in most of the results. And you have to ask yourself, why is it that a site for booking hotels is the most persuasive website in the world? And it's because they have so much latitude when price and value for money can't be known. So it's so easy to convince someone to book this hotel over that hotel, and they do that largely on the basis of the commissions that are being offered behind the scenes. So when value for money is made clear, I'm just going to show you a search that I did for 4-star hotels in London. And this was the top of the search results. So you can see on Booking.com, it's a 4-star hotel, 8.1 review score, thousands of reviews, just over 3 kilometres from the city centre. And you'll see at the top of the list, you'll see that they're going to get a lot more visibility. Booking.com have committed to them. If you see and it might be difficult to see from the back of the room, but you see the preferred program symbol, the thumbs up, and then you see the plus beside it. So what that means is that the hotel is participating in Preferred Plus. So they're paying 23% commission as their base rate. And in doing that, Booking.com promise that they'll give you approximately 60% increased visibility. So again, I want you to just reflect on the consumer here, where there's absolutely zero benefit to this hotel being the top of the search results necessarily. It's there because Booking.com are making most money from it. And we just have to follow that commission ask down through the decades. I've watched it happen. Every time it gets pushed forward, you have to go there to compete. So we had 15% base rate when I first looked at Booking.com. Then it went to 18% with preferred. Now it's gone to 23. And if you don't go to 23, you're several pages deep in the search results, and you're not getting that visibility. At the very bottom of the search results, you'll see a hotel that has a slightly better review score, still has thousands of reviews, it's the same distance from the city centre, it's arguably a better room type, but that's subjective. But it's way, way down. It's not getting the visibility. It's not being found. But it's not only that. That ranking order based on commission is something we're aware of. What we're not necessarily aware of is that all of the persuasion messaging that's invoked to get that consumer to book the top hotel is, at Booking.com's discretion, not invoked for the second hotel. They'll add, I think it's £23 in credits. This is part of the Preferred Plus program. So they're going to give me £23 credit as a consumer if I book the first hotel. They're using all of the persuasion messaging around scarcity and risk mitigation to convince me further to book it. The difference between the two bookings to Booking.com, even after paying the £23 credit, is 96% difference in revenue. They're still making 96% more from the top hotel, even if that £23 credit is redeemed at a future date. So it's never going to change. It's going to be a constant chase for hotels in terms of having to pay increased commissions for it. And there's zero benefit to the consumer. So again, it goes to the point that value for money can't be found. The next point I would make is just from a B2B perspective, with the way we look at our competitiveness in the market. Again, is problematic because we use dynamic pricing and because we don't have that framework to best understand price. So any clients I've worked with down through the years, what they typically do is they have a comp set of 10 hotels. They've maybe come up with that comp set 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's based on the neighbourhood that the hotels are in, it's based on the services, the number of rooms, and so on. And yet when you sit with the Booking.com account manager and you ask them, which hotels did consumers book when they looked at my hotel, but they didn't book me? And more than 50% of the time, the hotels that they did book is not in your comp set. Especially when you've got people coming to the city on a multi-night stay, because the exact location isn't as important if I'm going to go around and see several things in the city. So customers are going to be influenced more by the location of the hotel, the style of the hotel, the deals that are on offer. We're not looking at the right data because we can't look at the right data. We're not looking at it holistically enough. And hotels I've worked with, they will have another group of hotels in their aspirational comp set. On the last hotel I looked at, 73 nights of the 365. One of the hotels in their aspirational comp set was neck and neck on price. So on average, they were £150 more expensive per night. But there were 73 nights of the year where they were neck and neck on price, either because my client was ahead on occupancy or the other hotel was behind. And they're eating their lunch, but they're not even being looked at from a competitiveness standpoint. So again, this is something that introducing more clarity in price can help with. So to go back to RateAdvisor and what the purpose of it is it's a new pricing standard. It's something that is completely transparent. It's not subjective in any way. It's just based on math. It's something that has been presented to the regulators as giving them a framework to regulate price. So you've seen the efforts that in the UK the CMA have made down through the years with Booking.com. And it literally, it's like a game of tag. They'll chase them on this, they'll concede a point on narrowband price parity, they'll chase them on something else. They were penalised in Spain a fortnight ago. Australia are constantly on their back. When we give a framework for understanding value for money, it gives a huge lever to the regulators to regulate the OTAs and the practices that they use to influence consumers. So looking at what that standard looks like in action, this is one part of what RateAdvisor does, is when I go to the hotel website and when I see that price, RateAdvisor as a widget in the booking engine just pops up with value for money, and it says that this price is 20% lower than the expected price of $339. So it's essentially doing what is happening already in retail. It's serving that purpose. And of course the key question is, well, how does that work? Where does this expected price come from? Because it's not something that we can dream up if it's going to be regulated. So to explain this to you at a really, really high level, if I want to come to London as a consumer and I want to search for all hotels in London, the occupancy of the city, how busy London is going to impact the average price of a hotel. And I kind of know that as a consumer. If I come and Chelsea Flower Show or London Fashion Week or Wimbledon is on, I know I'm going to pay a little bit more. But when you look at London and you say, yes, okay, the busyness of the city will reflect the average price of hotels, the distribution of sold rooms on that night is really uneven. So some hotels, if London is 80% sold, some hotels are at 95% occupancy and they're charging rack rate. But some hotels are at 65% occupancy and they're charging less than they normally would because for whatever reason, they're a little bit behind the curve. And this is what the algorithms behind RateAdvisor and the Valueverse pick up on. So it allows us in a regulated, really transparent and really objective way to say, we can give the consumer an indicator as to what that price is going to be like. And what that does is it gets invoked only if the hotel is offering value for money. So if I go through that booking process and the hotel is the one that's at the 95%, nothing happens. It's like retail don't put a sticker on to say we're charging more than we normally would. It's only invoked when there's a deal on offer. That's exactly the way RateAdvisor works. But it also allows you to take that data and plug it into your marketing mix. So now you can build top of funnel by saying we've got up to 35% off in December. So you get more click-through. You get a lower cost per click because of a higher click-through rate. You get more people into the funnel and a higher conversion rate at the end of it. So that's really where we're going with it. And where we feel we can move the needle from a commission savings perspective is on the left, you can see the value of online hotel bookings as it's projected out to 2026. On the right-hand side, you'll see from Focusrite's most recent report, what's the balance? How do hotels compare with other verticals within travel in terms of the brand.com share against OTAs? And you can see hotels fare the worst. There's a few different reasons for that. One of the biggest is that there's a lot more choice. I understand what airlines to look at. When I'm coming to London, I have no idea. So if your hotel is not paying the commission, you're probably right down at the bottom and you're not going to be found. So the OTAs have an edge with hotels that they don't have to the same degree with other areas of travel. And what we feel we can do is if we can get a 10% shift, bringing all of these tools into play, and with a regulatory framework providing a tailwind, we feel if we can shift 10% of that to brand.com, that's a saving of $5.6 billion per year to hotels. So that's the mission that we're on. That's what we're trying to do. I'm leaving a little bit more time at the end of this presentation than I think was structured because I'm aware that it's very conceptual and it's highly likely that there'll be questions or challenges to what we're doing. So thank you very much.